Hey guys, Rascal here, and today I'm going to talk about the series that's surprisingly not well known, G.I. Joe Renegades. This show is actually recommended to me by who else? Bennett Dudley, because half the stuff I use on this channel is recommendations by him. I didn't watch the original G.I. Joe series, and I couldn't really, of course I didn't, grow up with that show. And I did not find the series on demand or Netflix anymore, so I guess I'm going to have to purchase it or maybe watch it online. I did watch a little bit of the original 80s movie, but I never finished it for some reason. I think there was a storm and I don't know if the power went out or we just had to, shut off everything. And I've heard of the live action movies with Dwayne Johnson and Channing Tatum, but never watched them. So I was kind of interested in Renegades after seeing Dudley use the show in some of his videos, and I had never actually seen this before or heard of it. And I've heard of G.I. Joe, but I never knew they made a reboot series at some point. And it looks like this came around at the time of Transformers Prime and My Little Pony, so I guess Hasbro was going through a reboot phase that was actually doing well, because so far the reboots they have been doing have been like pretty good for the 2010s decade. Now I'll explain a little bit what G.I. Joe Renegades is. This show is more of an homage to the A-Team, the original A-Team series, instead of the original series, which kind of had a bunch of these guys, military guys, fighting off. I think the villain was called Cobra Commander, the one that goes, that's him. This one kind of revamps the idea where you kind of knew that this was like a well-known fact that the Joes fight Cobra, and it kind of was the good and evil battle, and some of these Cobras have mutant powers and like was Ninja Turtles. And I think that was pretty much the basis of the original series. It was just good versus evil, and the G.I. Joes, of course, the greatest American heroes. Now, for Renegades, it looks like they kind of changed it up. They took a more, I think it's a more serious take. It's not a comedy. It's more of a action and more military base, where the other one was, kind of military, but it was a fun part of it. And here it looks like they took a more serious route, and they actually have these I think they're Cadet Joes. I think that's what they're called. And they're training to become soldiers. But they're renegades now because they were framed for blowing up Cobra Industries, or one of their plants. And for here, Cobra Industries, no one knows that they're the bad guys. And Cobra Commander, it has this sort of disguise going on where he looks like a normal, regular guy to the people and to the public, and then he turns out to be this really creepy dude who covers half his face like he's Slade. Which is kind of funny because if you listen to his voice when he's in disguise, I think it's Steve Blum doing the voice. If not, I apologize. Oh, I'm sorry. It was Charlie Adler doing the voice. Well, he sounds like Steve Blum, and he sounds kind of creepy. So not trying to judge, but I think you should at least concern yourself with the guy sound like that. So yeah, back to the Joes. They're now renegades. And they're on the run from the military and Cobra, who are both groups are trying to take them out. So they're on the run, and they want to clear their names to avoid being persecuted. And stories like that I'm actually really interested in. I really like when they have those framed arcs, and then they have to really prove who did it. And sometimes the even better ones are the ones you don't know who framed them. You gotta figure out with the characters who the real culprit is. Well, here it's Cobra, so there goes that. But the main characters are, there's Duke, who's voiced by Jason Marsden. There's Roadblock, who's voiced by Kevin Michael Richardson. Tunnel Rat, who's voiced by Matthew Yang King. He actually sounds a little familiar. And Lady J. That's one of the friends. Scarlet, that was her name. Scarlet, who's voiced by Natalia. Can't pronounce her name. I'm sorry, I can't pronounce her name. She was on Saved by the Bell. Well, one of the series, sorry. And then Snake Eyes, who I don't think really had a voice until they had the backstory. And this was actually a pretty good series. I wasn't expecting to be so in depth with everything, because a lot of this stuff is pretty heavy with this show. I mean, I'm really interested in the story, and there's even stuff you gotta find out about one of their previous members who's named Ripcord. He's got a bit of a story. You get actually a backstory on nearly all the Joes, whether it's like fully dedicated episodes or snippets. You even get Snake Eyes' backstory, who is my favorite, and I actually like his backstory episodes. I think they were called, it was Return of the Arashigake. No, Kagage? Something like that. Those are actually my favorite episodes because they were, I don't know any of the backstories of the Joes or the characters in general. So seeing this was actually very, very well done. And my second favorite would be Homecoming, where it's a kind of sort of backstory to Duke. And all these episodes, you have to watch them in order. It's not like one thing happens in each episode and it doesn't connect or there's no continuity. It's a constant, pretty much on the run story. So you gotta watch each episode to see what happens next with the story, and how close the Cobras are coming to get them. And you got the military on them, and then you had these other villains. The Baroness, who's the main one besides Cobra, and she actually reminded me a lot of Black Knight on Jeremy Rex. Who's the guy? Destro, who's voiced by Clancy Brown, and all I could hear was Lex Luthor in a mask. And then even has some other villains come in, even if they were one episode each. Some of them don't really stay that long, but they're actually pretty intense villains with each one they do. There's never a villain that's sort of like a joke or a comic relief, so you can really take everything pretty seriously. There are some moments where there are some jokes, but it's still an action, adventure, military show. And I kind of miss shows like this being action-oriented. And I'm glad that there's sort of a resurgence of that thanks to Voltron and Troll Hunters, because Netflix seems to be getting on the bandwagon of doing the action cartoons again. But Renegades was actually a really, really good show. And I definitely recommend it. Even if you're not into military-esque shows, if you like ongoing plots, fugitives on the run type of stories, like being framed and figuring out who did it. This is definitely a great show you should watch. I saw it on demand. I never knew it was a feature that my cable provider had, so I watched the whole series and I really, really enjoyed it. And like I said, my favorite character has to be Snake Eyes. His backstory was actually really interesting, and knowing why he doesn't speak was actually pretty intense. It reminded me of Bumblebee's backstory, which will haunt everybody. Yeah, I mean, you probably have a favorite character too if you watch the show. But yeah, really enjoyed this show. And the only thing I'm not happy about is that it got canceled. Again, I don't get why some of these shows get canceled. Why on earth did they cancel this show? And if you watch the end, there's a cliffhanger. And the cliffhanger would have led to season 2. With Cobra being an even bigger threat. Because Cobra Commander is pretty deadly in here compared to him bumbling around in the original 80s show. So I don't know why a lot of these shows back then got canceled. But good news is I got to see it, and thank you, Dudley, for recommending this to me. I really, really enjoyed it, and I definitely want to use it in my videos. And if any of you guys haven't seen it, I definitely recommend checking it out. If you have, or seen some clips of it, you can let me know what you guys think of it in the comments, because I'd like to hear what you think and your opinions on it. And would you like to see a second season? So, thanks so much for watching. Later.